He doesn't have it on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy. Hi, I'm your host, Terry J. Ahman, and welcome to this, my 15th ever installment of VideoFuzzy, the video based on episode 107 of my audio podcast. This episode titled Persons Unknown. I determined once the entire series showed up in my collection that I would dig into that NBC short-run summer series, and as this set of cataloging, it did so. Let's dive in. I should love it. Longtime VideoFuzzies know past episodes I've commented favorably on The Prisoner, both the high-concept British series from the 1960s and to a lesser extent the US reimagination aired on AMC in 2009. In both of those situations, a former intelligence officer, one government, one corporate, finds himself in a mysterious village run with cruel whimsy by a shadowy leader at the head of a shadowy cabal of shadowy operatives, and the story focuses on his efforts to return to some recognizable form of consensus reality. Persons Unknown is saved to my collection now across 3 binders, from the pilot on disc 1863 to the series finale showing up in this set of cataloging on discs 1957-1958, including an episode they never aired that I tracked down archived in my current collection on disc X575, as well as a home-burn DVD set I crafted while rewatching the production so as to comment on it. A small group of strangers, all ostensibly taken from their lives kidnapped, wake up in a nondescript, vaguely mid-century Art Deco hotel with no independent insight on how the others they discover. There are too many rooms. There are only 7 people in a 3-story hotel. All of them are on the same floor, except for the kitchen staff at the Chinese restaurant across the street, and a night manager is not especially informative. They seem to be the only ones there. The camera installations are everywhere. Guests are under constant surveillance, which largely seems passive, although as the series continues, we see the command center located in the lower level of the hotel. We see how the environment is occasionally manipulated relative to guest activity, either in response to it or to provoke it. We see the world outside the town from the perspective of a reporter witnessing footage of 2 guests being abducted on the same day, pulling threads together with his editor, looking for answers. That's the broadest view of what's going on. Narrowing in, the guests at the hotel are Janet, mother of 6-year-old Megan. She was abducted from a park. We also meet Joe, a volunteer firefighter, Graham, a Gulf War veteran, Moira, who says she's a psychiatrist, but admits soon enough that she's actually a mental patient, Tori, a young socialite who's sure she's been abducted as punishment by her father, a millionaire ambassador to Italy. Charlie is a former CFO, sole caregiver to his wife, a terminal cancer patient. And then there's Bill, a used car salesman, who is the saltiest little nugget you can imagine. Confrontational, self-centered blowhard. Truly takes all kinds. I've been using the word guest. It's the easiest means I have of differentiating between the captives kept at the hotel as guests and the staff, who range from staff pretending to be guests to actual staff like the kitchen staff and the actively pointless night manager. We learn more about the larger operation as the show progresses. By episode 4, we learn that Joe, the volunteer firefighter, and also we learn a former priest, is way more than just a guest. The cameras follow him through the walk-in cooler into the command center, which is manned by Tom, the super helpful, friendly guy running the Chinese restaurant, who, it turns out, is also spying on them. Along with the entrance through the restaurant, we see him punch a code into the hotel in the elevator that sends it down to that level as well, and there's another secret passage directly from his hotel room. He certainly seems more resourceful than the night manager. What we learn about him is that he got his position the same way as at least 2 of them got to be guests. His application was accepted the day before, he went to sleep in his bed at home, and woke up the next day at the hotel. What we learn about his office is that it is a monitoring station like the one downstairs. It's just a lot less fitted out, and the screens recess when not in use. I say guests, but they're at least captives. lives. Toward the end of the pilot episode, they tried to just walk out of the town and run smack into a microwave installation they end up calling a pain wall. Like it's microwaving a burrito, Janet said, except that you're the burrito. Janet, Joe, Graham, and Charlie all get caught in the pain wall. They all collapse, and suddenly out of nowhere, a van pulls up, seemingly unaffected by the wall of pain, gathers them up, and drives off, leaving the others mystified. When they return, they've all got these mysterious implants in their thighs. Moira, the mental patient pretending to be a doctor of some sort, digs them out with a penknife and provides rudimentary stitches. Oh, something else happened in episode 1. They're all eating at the Chinese restaurant and receive fortune cookies at the end, apparently at random, and Janet's cookie tells her to kill her neighbor and she'll go free. The show is just full of this kind of spooky atmosphere. Though the landlines don't appear to be connected up at all, Janet gets a phone call from her daughter, Megan, who sounds like she's with Janet's abusive mother. The kill your neighbor message is reiterated when a handgun appears in her room along with current photos of her daughter, explicitly ordering her to kill Joe. Janet growls that she's nobody's puppet. They're all still human beings, and if anything happens to her daughter, she says they'll wish that they had killed her on day 1. There's a storm in episode 2 where a generator on the edge of town gets blown up by a bolt of lightning, which seems to disable the pain wall. The guests hop in the van left by the restaurant staff and make a run for it, driving into the storm. After driving a good long while in the rain, they pull up on the town that they'd driven out of. No luck tunneling out of the place either. It's surrounded by impenetrable walls sunken into the earth, fitted with vents spewing poisonous gas. They seem pretty decisively stuck there. Until top of episode 4, the night manager informs the group that one of them will be checking out that day. Pressed, he can't say who it is, but later that day a taxi pulls up. In very broken English, the driver asks for Janet and one other person. She selects Joe, and they roll out of town. Watching all this, Tori, the socialite daughter of the U.S. ambassador to Italy, slips into a silky red thing and slinks up to the night manager, asking him to arrange a similar exit for her. She may wish to rethink that. Not far outside of town, Joe and Janet's taxi gets a flat tire. They get out and watch as their one ticket to freedom gets T-boned and actually bisected by a gigantic black semi, almost certainly killing the driver, and that seems to be pursuing them. So Joe and Janet leave the main road. They happen upon a cozy little cabin and shelter for the night, but when they wake the next day, the cabin is filled with bees. Moving very carefully, they manage to escape the swarm, and walking along the road, they aren't terribly surprised, eventually, to find themselves back in the town. Tori, however, seems to get her wish. Another taxi pulls up and asks for her specifically, and she is out of there. When the guests awaken the next day, they discover that she's gone, and a new arrival is lying along the side of the road, wearing Tori's dress and a blonde wig. She's a young woman of color. She and Graham are the only guests of color, and appears to have a prison tattoo with the name Erica on her leg. When she comes to, she lashes out. It's like she's there specifically to ramp up the danger energy of the show. And don't misunderstand me, the show has been building this energy throughout. Episode 3, the group is in the street trying to start a signal fire when a passing helicopter dropped 7 canisters, 4 empty, 3 with gas masks, prompting that always fun conversation about which of them deserve to live. At different times, sirens would go off and gas would be pumped into where they were. The people who put the masks on are the ones that were actually gassed by the masks. They had to be cut away from their faces to save them. So that's pain walls, thigh implants, impromptu surgery by a mental patient, bees, poisonous gas, Janet getting trapped at a bank vault with a violent and very agitated ex-con. We've learned Joe is some odd combination of staff members stuck reluctantly playing guest, and Janet has been asked twice to kill someone, specifically that she killed Joe, and she'll be set free. There's other psychological weirdness as well. Bill, that salty nugget I mentioned, sees a video of Charlie murdering the wife he's so gung-ho about getting back to, and just starts needling Charlie about it, blackmailing him for position, for power, until Charlie lashes out and nearly smothers him with a pillow. Then Erica beats Bill up and takes his clothes, which was satisfying. But Still. Oh, and the day a handgun appeared in Janet's room, a monarch chrysalis appears in Tori's room. Zero explanation. Like I said, Tori, she's sure she's in the town as punishment by her father, the ambassador. Once Tori leaves the town, we follow her story very briefly. When next we see her, she is lying on her back in a Roman fountain, apparently deceased. However, Moira is shown video where Tori is reunited with her ambassador father and everything's great. There's a lot of highly relatable emotional manipulation going on for the guests. Along with everything I mentioned, there's bars that drop down over the windows, the elevator sometimes doesn't work, the guests all find body bags in the bank. 6 of them. See, I'm not sure when this is made clear to us. Around episode 9, the night manager is berated by some external operative, Liam, who then shows up as his replacement in episode 10. But the hotel, the restaurant, the talents operated by the shadowy International Foundation, a cabal seeking to perfect the manipulation of human behavior to bring about world peace. Oh, what a fantastic objective! Who could possibly object to such an obvious premise? World peace through more efficient human behavior modification, fear and confusion, 7 guests at a time. Why not tell everyone what you're up to? Well, the manipulation doesn't stop with a strange little town in the middle of nowhere. It's been unnervingly easy not to mention that while all this is going on, Janet's ex-husband, Megan's absent father, Mark, is a reporter at the San Francisco whatever. He's gotten his hands on the footage from the park taken the day Janet was abducted and Megan was found apparently abandoned. The San Francisco whatever is a garbage tabloid, and his editor, Kat, is only interested in the story of the abduction as a brief and is annoyed when Mark wants to dig into it. This is how she finds out that Mark, her sometimes lover, even has an ex-wife and a 6-year-old daughter he's abandoned. Mark, digging into the story, learns international socialite Tori went missing the same day, and his investigation, worthy of a better newspaper, though we're otherwise never given much reason to respect him, uncovers the names of several people who also went missing that day, who happened to be guests at the hotel. While we're out here in consensus reality, episode 1, Janet has been talking to a private detective of some sort before her abduction, a detective she accused of playing her and her ex-husband, that'd be Mark, against each other. As Mark and Kat have uncovered more information, detective guy pulls them aside into a cab, drives them to an airport. He's sending them to Rome. You'll recall that's where Tori's body was discovered. Yeah, Moira thinks she's alive. The rest of us are pretty sure she's dead. Well, they go to her funeral, why not, and meet Stefan. I guess he was in love with her and doesn't know how, but Tori and the ambassador were all mixed up in some international conspiracy that following a dust-up and shootout at the funeral, Mark and Kat are hustled into a shootout at the funeral. Mark and Kat are hustled into a transatlantic coach aboard Crying Baby Airlines and find themselves in Mexico somewhere, same town Joe had been a priest, and meet with an insane woman who guides them to the woman Joe had been in love with before he was abducted by his replacement priest called the Azules, henchfolk he dismisses as a local superstition. During all this, Mark and Kat are actually stuck in this little Mexican hotel with no money, credit cards frozen, no means of contacting anyone when armed guards bust in and are going to abduct them. But they escape. They escape their captors, who seem to be Foundation operatives based on what we've been learning about that organization. The Foundation is the people who run the mysterious town and the hotel. And a day or so walking around in the jungle discover, well, what a tiny little world. It's the mysterious little town. Now Janet, Mark, and Kat are all together, sort of. Mark and Kat find staff there and enforcers who don't seem to encounter any of the guests, along with Moira, Graham, Charlie, Bill, and Erica, and, oh yeah, Joe. After the bees, Joe went crazy and killed Tom and the night manager and lashed out at the other guests. So, no surprise in episode 8, he wakes up strapped to a table in a bright white room and seems to be hearing voices in his head. A woman's voice, someone called the director. This whole scene is very John Steed and Emma Peel Avengers, and we aren't enlightened significantly about the program, the Foundation, or much of anything beyond that. They seem to be using pain, memories, and emotional manipulation to reprogram Joe. A nurse shows up to inject something into his many, many IV hookups, and oh hey, look everyone, it's Tori again. Joe reappears in the town in a windstorm, naked, apparently suffering from amnesia. There's generalized distrust of him. When he vanished, the other guests discovered detailed dossiers about themselves in his room, and now that Erica is no longer the most violent guest, having once taken that title from Bill, she pair bonds with Janet, who she makes no secret that she's attracted to. Janet, for her part, has given up on Joe and just can't trust him. The new night manager on the scene, Alan Smythe, as Liam Ulrich, has arrived directly with a directive from the director, who we see as a middle-aged middle manager type who has apparently been given free rein to try something new and different with everyone in town 27. Liam is certainly more proactive than the last guy, engaging with the guests, bringing all of them presents, hints at life in the outside world. For Erica, he brings news of her son. Moira gets a scarf she strangled her parents with, before she was committed. Bill gets the game ball from the hero high school matchup where he played through the pain of his injury and scored the winning touchdown or something. Charlie is given the front page reporting on his problems with the SEC, resolved with his disappearance and some powerful figures moving money and evidence around behind the scenes. Graham gets a belt he was beaten with growing up, and Janet gets the stuffed bunny she cuddled while her parents screamed at each other in her emotionally abusive home environment. Liam plays video from her hiding in her bedroom growing up, indicating how long the program's been tracking her life, bringing her in directly. Oh, something else about Liam. Joe had killed him. In the last town, or the town before that, when he was kidnapped from his parish, he got the same fortune cookie that Janet got and telling him to kill Liam and he'd go free. Joe shot him and performed last rites. Then Liam had been tormenting functionaries working at a monitoring station when the director called him in and sent him to help stabilize the situation, which choices he makes lets Janet know about the woman Joe hooked up with as a parish priest, which disgusts her. Oh, and I've been trying to get back to this. While the guests are holed up at the hotel, Mark and Kat, remember them, are snooping around in the town and find all these body bags. They open them and find 7 bodies with thumbs removed. One of the body bags has, oh my god, I've talked about how small this world was, right? Stephen from Italy is here. He'd cut thumbs from all the bodies as a way of getting them ID'd. Well, that's resourceful. And then stitched and sutured them, because what, are we animals? Well, he helps Mark and Kat commandeer the Azul's jeep, those shadowy henchfolk, and escape the town, no pain wall in or out, and despite a crash and an explosion, they make it to an airport with the thumbs and somehow manage a flight to San Francisco, where they find that their newspaper has been purchased by some mysterious foundation. They've been fired, and their reputations have been smeared to destroy their credibility. Yep, the paper reported Kat was involved with stealing pain medication from a children's oncology ward, so yeah, that's never a good look. Also, 6 of the thumbs were recovered by the foundation. The 7th, preserved in a bottle of tequila. Oh, despite that thumb being removed from a very dead townsperson from some other town, Mark and Kat are brought in to meet with a delightfully charismatic patient freshly repatriated from, somewhere in South America. Following his terrible thumb accident, his foundation has helped train him for a new job. They dig into this foundation, which would appear also to have purchased their old newspaper and smeared their reputations. They track the headquarters to a high-class suite of corporate offices in Iowa and spout what must sound like conspiratorial nonsense to everyone in earshot. They are asked to leave, but not before Angela, the director, watching video of this, wonders aloud if anyone has ever before gotten this close to the truth. Well, no. Angela, chastened by a livid, seething board of directors, led by Robert Picardo in a long silver hairpiece reminiscent of Julian Assange, issues a red card, liquidating the town on her authority. The guests find the body bags and click to the implications. There's 6 body bags and 7 of them. Liam, the night manager, who has been in love with Janet since he showed up, is trying to hide himself in the hotel, but is captured and frog-marched to the end of town by Bill and Charlie, makes his way past the pain barrier, and then it's that thing from Scanners where his head just suddenly explodes. Well, that's one means of kicking that reference of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which has been referenced a couple times in the show. It's expected that the townspeople will turn on each other. Only one will survive. And over the course of the episode, we watch them do exactly that. The camera's watching them murder each other one by one. And as they all end up in the body bags, being hauled out of town, only Joe remains. And as he is congratulated by Angela, he is tased by her bodyguard. Except that none of the guests are dead. They're all piled alive in the back of the van, getting driven off somewhere. Janet ends up in a psych ward. Moira and Teresa, we learned that it's Erica's real name, why not, are hiding out in the Middle East somehow. Graham is strapped to the table in the White Room where Angela is demanding to know where his friends are, and Charlie and Bill steal the car and drive off. In the psych ward, Angela suggests Janet will never be released unless she gives up this crazy idea that she was held captive in a strange little town somewhere. Janet attacks a nurse and escapes into a corridor. Mark and Kat track her to the hospital, and following this weird M.C. Escher stairwell scene, they all find each other. Mark and Kat help Janet escape and then reconnect with her daughter, Megan. Mark and Kat are then disappeared into a horrifying prison camp alongside the ambassador, locked in terrifying little barbed wire cages in a rainstorm as the cameras return to Janet and Megan. That detective guy has arrived at Janet's mother's place. "You are not safe here," he warns. "We have to go." They're taken to a mid-century hotel in the middle of nowhere where they sleep for the night. And when they wake up, Megan is nowhere to be found, and Janet is once again in some bizarre hotel setup. So we discover our Joe and Stefan waking up in a whole new hotel with this whole new guest list. When they take the elevator to the lobby, they find Tori, Victoria, behind the counter in the role of hotel manager. As for Charlie, Bill, Moira, Erica, Teresa, Graham, and Janet, they are greeted by Angela's eye-patch bodyguard, welcoming them to Level 2, on board a grim cruise liner called the SS Perdidas, Spanish for Lost, and I'm like, oh, you wish this was as good as Lost. Cue the closing production credits, which I suppose was easier than writing an actual ending to this show, or Megan staring into a snow globe or something as the camera pans away. But yeah, lots of analogs with The Prisoner, which in 2010 there'd been some renewed interest with the rebroadcast of the original series on IFC and AMC airing the Jim Caviezel, Ian McKellen remake the summer before. Obviously, Lost also loomed large in the American cultural zeitgeist, that production having wrapped its 6th-season run a couple weeks before its thing premiered, and people were still reeling from how badly that show ended. And all of that was just the barest bones of a recap laid in mainly so I could talk about it. The show opened on Janet being separated from her daughter, and the primary emotional storyline throughout focused on her overcoming obstacles and misadventures trying to get back to her. So, side plots like the development of Bill's character traveling through the various stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance were easy to overlook, or how undifferentiated were Moira as a medical professional and Moira as revealed to be a mental patient. They never did anything with the process while she was creating her room. By the time we learned what got her committed, murdering her parents, she was still the still, calm, meditative, centered person who surprised us in the body bag episode, attacking Joe, Graham, Erica, Teresa. When they ultimately revealed that that was all the guests play acting so they could all escape with their lives, it made a lot more sense. Any development we saw with Bill was blunted by how loud and annoying he was written. His character was meant to be used car salesman, and he leaned into that smarmy, loud, abrasive, very self-involved, as well as devious, manipulative. After he was shown video making it look like Charlie had murdered his terminal cancer patient wife in her sleep, he tried leveraging that for, startup investments, for ridiculous licensing schemes, or maybe Charlie could just give him millions of dollars to keep his mouth shut in the face of absolute zero proof he had. Suddenly, Charlie smothers Bill with a pillow, and when he finally releases him, points out maybe his wife didn't have cancer at all. Maybe he killed her to get her to finally shut up. And it hasn't escaped my attention how little I've talked about Graham or Erica, that is, Erica Teresa, despite how Erica Teresa's character seems to have been brought in specifically to sow chaos and mayhem. And setting that aside for exactly one sentence, for Chadwick Boseman to fade into the background in an ensemble cast is troubling. He's the tallest, he's got military bearing, he's armed half the time, he's Chadwick friggin' Boseman, and I have the hardest time remembering what they had him do. His character, Graham, was practicing Muslim, haunted by his actions in Iraq and memories of his abusive home life growing up. There was a lot to work with there, but a lot of it went completely out of shot because the show was so much more interested in Janet, Joe, Moira, Tori, Bill, and Charlie, cutting away a little too often to check on what Mark and Kat were up to. Whatever all those characters had in common. And remember how I was going to say more about Erica Teresa? Well, neither do I now, but talk about inconsistent. When we first meet her, she's comatose, then feral, until she all but instantly falls in love with Janet in the bank vault, but otherwise still suspicious and lashing out at everyone, attacking Bill and stealing his clothes. Yeah, actually, I was here for that, Bill. But also deeply concerned about her son somewhere. For the rest of the run, if they needed someone to just be abrasive or violent or weird, get that chica loco with the cornrows and the prison tats. Final episodes of 20 seconds of her hiding out in some Moroccan street market wearing a floral printed bedsheet like she and Moira were escapees from a Lucy sketch with a Vegas swipe at closure before we eventually saw her pop out of her hotel room with the rest of them aboard the SS What the Hell. But yeah, the show got a lot of mileage out of the fact that none of them know where they are or who anyone is beyond what they've shared about themselves, and the globalist nature of the operation satisfied some paranoid fantasies being cultivated through this era with the corporatist installations of world compliance, or starting out in the hinterlands of South America with the long-term goal of lulling us all into some worldwide thrall, half a dozen at a time, which turned out to be just an app on our phone that demanded we douse our bodies with ice water and eat Tide Pods. The overarching structure of these intricately planned Twilight Zone towns, where they were the only people in a 3-story hotel, the shops were abandoned, the staff was shuttled in every day to operate a Chinese restaurant that also connected directly to the nerve center of the operation, the town ringed with concrete substructures fitted with vents set to release poisonous gas just in case anyone had the bright idea to spend a week tunneling to freedom, that if people did escape via taxicab, the cab would be crushed and they'd spend the night in a cabin full of bees, that once people leave, they're both alive and dead with video proof of both outcomes. I mean, it's The Prisoner. Both versions of it. The 1960s one's at some madcap village somewhere in the English countryside, and the one where they're all trapped in the mental construct of Ian McKellen's comatose wife. I kept trying to discern what the writers were actually trying to say, and they built this idea that they'd been visually monitoring Janet from when she was a child, creepy, through to her relationship with Mark and this remarkable child they had, as they reiterated from the top of Janet and Joe's first conversations. Janet said Megan was 6 years old going on 40, that she was so good at getting people to do what she wanted them to do, and this idea that the program had somehow brought Janet and Mark together to create this very child, and how many people they were doing this with. The towns were numbered at least as high as 27, and functionaries were all anonymous workers in blue coveralls running around doing the foundation's work all day long. It all read centrally planned corporate installations that when we caught glimpses behind the scenes of the office environment, program operatives and board of directors, quite stratified and disturbing. All that having been established, there's a scene in Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps, where we discovered that the sheriff out in the middle of nowhere is actually part of this dark international conspiracy our heroes have been trying to thwart. The sheriff has caught Hannay, the clueless sap who got caught up in all this, and as the sheriff is phoning his superior to report this great victory, Hannay starts escaping. So the sheriff is chasing him around his office, frantically assuring his boss on the other end of the line that they've got Hannay. Yep, all wrapped up. Everything's gone perfectly according to plan. Tickety-boo! As he leaps from the window into the night. The board of directors is not happy that a couple of San Francisco tabloid scribblers have somehow connected enough dots to send the foundation's corporate headquarters demanding to know the whereabouts of kidnapping victims they are in fact responsible for kidnapping. Robert Picardo, as the silver-haired man, seethes with anger the director's idiotic mishandling of this whole affair. Despite the fact that the people they pulled in for this were apparently chosen for how psychologically remarkable their child was going to end up being, so at least on some level. Well, what it is a short summer run on NBC, which is now a disc set on my shelf, and I was finally able to just kick back and explore this intriguing, if bizarre, and sometimes silly production, over the course of which at least 4 people just fell hopelessly in love with a beautiful but understandably distracted woman for no other reason than the script demands they do so, and they end up tased, imprisoned, lost at sea, or their head explodes all over everyone. So we got that message in here as well. Persons Unknown, everyone, and yep, that's absolutely a short-run series of stories and images that crossed our screens during the summer of 2010. And thanks for checking out this, my 15th installment of VideoFuzzy the Video. Please check out the audio installment posted as episode 107, Persons Unknown, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get a chance, you can listen to me talk about my music collection and VideoFuzzy the soundtrack. Like, follow, and subscribe. Feedback is always appreciated. Contact me at tjama1970@yahoo.com or through my show notes. For VideoFuzzy the Video, I am Terry J. Hammond. Happy viewing.